Hi, everybody. This is Luiz Maia, and you are watching this recorded session for the Behavioral Economics of Global Affairs. Então, pessoal, essa é uma aula, uma sessão gravada para a disciplina Economia Comportamental de Assuntos Globais. For this class, we are going to talk a little bit about the introduction to behavioral economics. What exactly is behavioral economics? We're going to talk a little bit about rationality from a conventional standpoint or a conventional perspective. And we are also going to talk about bounded rationality. So what is that supposed to mean? A gente vai falar de racionalidade e racionalidade limitada. And we're going to end up talking about Kahneman's fast and slow model of how people think, ok? Então a gente vai falar um pouquinho do modelo de Kahneman sobre como se dá a cognição do ser humano, basicamente em dois sistemas, um rápido e um devagar. All right, so let's start. In class, we have started talking about this example. So this is the subscription options that you may get if you want to subscribe to this magazine. The most important magazine in economics is called The Economist, right? So some time ago, if you wanted to subscribe to this magazine, you had three options. You could either get just the first option, which is you would only have access to the magazine online, only the web version of the magazine. The second option, you would only have access to the printed version, you know, the one you can handle, touch with your hands, the physical copy. But you had a third option. You could get both the online access and the printed version by the same amount of money. So you could get either just the printed copy or the web access and the printed copy for $125. So, okay, so you have these three options. At some point, one famous economist decided to question those options. So this guy sent a letter to the magazine and asked, what do you guys want when you present these options? What do you think is gonna happen? Então, esse economista famoso questionou a revista sobre onde é que ela queria chegar com essa oferta de três opções. Aparentemente, uma ali não faz muito sentido, né? Vocês provavelmente já deduziram certinho. Essa opção aqui não era escolhida por ninguém, né? Porque se eu vou pagar $125, who would pick such an option if you can take this one, right? All right, so that's exactly what happened. By the time Richard Tollard contacted the magazine, at that point, approximately 84% of the people chose both the printed version and the web version. And only 16% of the people decided to take only the online version, okay? But after Richard Toller questioned those options, the magazine decided to eliminate the intermediate option. So, what would you guess it happened? It turns out that when you were presented with only two options, most of the people decided to change their perspective and basically they opted by this, they chose this web version, which is less expensive, but only gives you access to the online version of the magazine. All right, so what's going on here? If there is one option for which no one has that preference, no one would choose that one, and when you eliminate that unreasonable option, people change their opinion about the other two. That doesn't seem to make sense, right? It turns out that this is one classical example of what we understand. It is the human rationality, and sometimes how we get like impressed with such examples, right? People are not as rational as we think they are. That's our first impression, okay? But if you stop and think a little bit about this, you're going to notice that people make apparently poor choices every day. All of us. All right. If I ask you, as Dan Ariely did, how many times over the last 30 years, not 30 days, how many times did you eat too much? Hmm. Quantas vezes nos últimos 30 dias que eu comi um pouco a mais do que eu deveria? Quantas vezes que eu digitei texto no WhatsApp enquanto estava parado no sinal do trânsito? How many times did I spend money and I regret it? Hmm. How many times I procrastinated and left something important that I needed to do, left it for later? Hmm. It turns out that we could go on for days and days. We sometimes spend less money, less time with people we love than we should. We don't work out as often as we should. Sometimes we do drugs and we shouldn't. Sometimes we mismanage time. So it turns out that people make apparently poor choices every time, all the time. But then, if that is true, we would be inclined to believe that the human brain is not so good. We are not rational at all. We are not as smart as we think we are. And that is not true. This is not the point we are trying to make here, okay, guys? This is very important. We are not here trying to point out all human brain defects. How defective is our mind? That's not the point. The point is that what we think rationality is and what rationality, human rationality, really is, well, those things don't match, okay? We have like an optimistic version of rationality in mind, and when we face reality, sometimes it's kind of scary, okay? We all make those mistakes or make those poor choices at least part of the time, right? Então, pessoal, a gente não está aqui para dizer que o cérebro humano é uma porcaria que tem que jogar fora. Nós estamos aqui para dizer que aquilo que a gente pensava que é a racionalidade humana, uma racionalidade pura e tal, não é exatamente o que acontece. A racionalidade humana tem suas limitações, tem suas idiosincrasias, suas características próprias. Okay, so with that introduction, let's have this big plan in mind for the whole class, okay? Our sequence here is going to be like this. First, we're going to spend lots and lots of time discussing individual behavior, okay? We're going to talk a lot about how you, me, or individual person makes decisions, okay? This is the first part of the class. Then we're going to move to larger groups or larger perspectives. We're going to talk about how people behave when they participate in organizations. Like, for example, when you are in a class, how many times you ask questions? How many times you raise your hand to ask a question to your teacher? Well, there are some unwritten rules about how you do that. Sempre tem uma espécie de regra que não está escrita, mas que as pessoas acabam adotando certos comportamentos ali. Okay, you're going to look at that, okay? And next stage, we're going to move to an even larger perspective. We're going to talk about social behavior, how communities behave, how the Brazilian society behaves. Okay, so we're going to start small with individual perspective. We're going to move to group decision making, and later on, we're going to talk about social behavior in general. All right. Now, there is this very important distinction that I have to make. What you see here are 6 persuasion tactics, as armas da persuasão. Esse é um livro muito famoso, um best-seller, é um dos livros muito vendidos. And this book talks mostly about marketing and marketing techniques that uses behavior about how the human brain works. Okay, so if you want to sell more, if you want to get from your client a yes as an answer, how do you do that? So marketing people have been working with this for a long time, and they use basically 6 fundamental persuasion tactics. First one is reciprocity. They offer you some kind of service in the hope that you're going to feel some gratitude towards the company, towards that brand, and then you're going to sometimes you're going to try to give it back. So when you go to a sales point and you are offered some kind of try, for example, if you are in a supermarket and people offer you some ice cream, for example. Você está lá num supermercado, alguém te oferece uma provinha de um sorvete. Você fica grato por aquilo e aí você fica com um olhar mais benevolente em relação àquela marca. O nome disso em português é reciprocidade. In English, we call it reciprocity. Okay? Second tactic is scarcity. What exactly is scarcity? Well, this is the fundamental idea in economics. É a escassez, é a falta. Sometimes people make announcements saying, this is gonna end. This is your last day. This is the last chance to get such and such deal, ok? Então, toda vez que alguém te oferece assim, promoção válida por tempo limitado, ele está falando assim, vai acabar, corra logo, senão você vai ficar sem. Alright, so this is another way to motivate people so that they will somehow look for the product and try and purchase, okay? The third one is authority. So we use like smart people, clever people, people who are admired to give you a commercial message. Então a gente vai lá e coloca um dentista bem vestido falando, essa marca aqui é a mais recomendada pelos dentistas e tal. Alright, so this guy is using this authority figure to convince you to purchase some products. The fourth one is consistency. So it's more like a commitment. Você quer associar a compra de um produto com a ideia de que você é uma pessoa estável, tem escolhas claras, você está comprometido com um tipo de produto. That's basically the reason why when you just get in a supermarket, for example, you always get the chance to purchase healthy food first. Então eles têm essa ideia de assim, você depois que você comprar comida saudável, você mais ou menos que se dá licença para depois se jogar lá no chocolate, no refrigerante ou na bebida alcoólica. Então tem essa ideia de buscar massagear ali o seu ego com a consistência, com a ideia de compromisso. The fifth one is affect. So we're talking here about feelings. Yes, feelings can be explored for commercial purposes too. One example of this is when, for example, you see commercials of people selling cars and they use puppies to do that. Well, they don't fit, right? O que tem a ver cachorrinho fofinho com a venda de um automóvel? No entanto, você vai lá, propaganda comercial de venda de automóvel usando cachorrinhos fofinhos. So, People know that we will pay more attention when some uh, warm image draws our attentions right to something that is cute, that is likable, I don't know. And the last one is conformity. So we tend to do what other people do. Okay, so if I tell you this one was the number one brand chosen by people in your city. Se eu falo que, isso daqui é a marca mais vendida, all right, so we tend to follow the herd. We tend to feel like uh, the collective uh, wisdom is I don't know, it's preferable. Né? A gente pensa que há uma sabedoria na coletividade, se está todo mundo comprando aquilo, a gente tende a ir junto. Okay, so this is not behavior economics. This is marketing. So we presented this thing here to let you know the difference. If you were in a marketing class, we would be teaching you how to use psychological mechanisms to sell more and therefore to benefit the company. This is not behavior economics. Behavior economics is about understanding why people act the way they do, and many times trying to help people making better choices for themselves, ok? Na economia comportamental, frequentemente o foco é tentar ajudar as pessoas a fazerem melhores escolhas para elas mesmas, não para mim, não para a empresa que eu trabalho, não para a universidade em que eu leciono, não, para que a pessoa mesmo tenha um benefício. Alright, so let's try and differentiate that, okay? Our goal here is not to sell more and it's not to benefit the company, any organization. Our goal here is to understand human behavior and as far as we can, as much as we can, to help people make better choices for themselves, okay? Not for me, not for a company, not for anyone else, okay? All right, so let's keep going. Let's just have a look at some examples here. What you can see in this picture, well, those are like famous actors, actresses, and these guys are drinking coffee. Okay, so what's the big deal? It turns out that just because you see famous people, celebrities, using a certain product, we are inclined to do the same. So those things work, okay? And this is not behavior economics. This is marketing, okay? Those are persuasion tactics that we just talked about. The same thing if I tell you that this burger company, these guys have sold 247 billion meals. So there's gotta be something good about this sandwich, right? Because otherwise, why would 247 billion people buy this, right? Okay, so this is like appealing to your sense of collectiveness, like the collective wisdom. It's got to be good. It's got to be correct. So I will follow the herd. On the other hand, here you can see that image of a very well-dressed couple of dentists, and they're saying, oh, this is the number one recommended brand of some kind of toothpaste, right? So yeah, those things actually work. I'm just showing you some examples. Here you can try a product, then the mother will feel some gratitude towards that company and she will tend to purchase that. You can appeal to people's feel of scarcity. Oh, look, this is going through May 2020. So you have to run, come to the sales point fast, otherwise you're not going to get it. So all of those are ways to persuade people, to somehow to manipulate people, and this is not behavior economics, okay? That's not what we are going to study here. If everyone is looking at this, we should stop and think for ourselves, maybe there is more about psychology than just to selling goods. And that's what behavior economics tries to do. Okay? Okay. So what exactly is this assumption so common in traditional economics? The rational choice, the rationality, ok? Então, lá na economia, nos modelos usuais de economia, que a gente vai estudar na microeconomia, na macroeconomia, são hipóteses fundamentais para a maior parte da teoria econômica. Essas hipóteses falam assim: o cidadão é racional. And what that's supposed to mean? What it means to say that someone is rational? Well, it means that people evaluate their options and they pick the best one, the one that will deliver for him or for her the best consequence possible, the best outcome possible. Okay? So this is an underlying assumption in most of traditional economic theories. Okay? Então, na grande maioria das teorias econômicas convencionais, a gente assume que o cidadão é racional, ele faz escolhas sempre procurando a melhor alternativa, e a melhor alternativa é aquela que traz melhores consequências para ele individualmente. Okay, so it seems fair, it seems reasonable. We know that people make mistakes, but it seems like okay that people, yes, we tend to make good choices, we tend to search for the best outcome possible. There's nothing unreasonable about this assumption, okay? O problema é que muitas vezes a gente não se dá conta que a decisão do ser humano é muito mais rica do que simplesmente a escolha que satisfaz ao máximo uma pessoa individualmente. One of the things that we essentially oversee is when we are talking about environmental aspects of the choice making. A gente tem aspectos ambientais em volta, o contexto da tomada de decisão. The best example to talk about this, in my opinion, is about how we give people gifts for their birthdays. Okay, think about it. You have a friend, it is his or her birthday, and you want to give him something special. Now, one way to go is like you go to a store, you think about this person's identity, what he likes, what she likes, and then you purchase something that will pleases that person, right? Okay, but if you think about it from a purely rational perspective, you could as well just give that people some money and say, look, maybe I will make choices that will not the best for you. So here it is, 100 reais. Go ahead and buy something for you. You can see that, for example, when a grandpa gives you some money for your birthday or something like that. You probably have seen something like this, but it turns out that between friends, if you do that, people will not feel like this is special. They will say like, wow, that's cold. So it is not acceptable to give people money and just say, go ahead and buy something for you. You can't do that, for example, for a work colleague, or I don't know, maybe even a relative, right? It doesn't feel right. Então, embora seja a mesma coisa você dar um presente que custa 70 reais ou dar o dinheiro, dar 70 reais para uma pessoa, do ponto de vista estritamente racional seria a mesma coisa, do ponto de vista social não é. E acaba que as pessoas entendem isso e não vão cometer esse erro. Alright, so the pure rational choice would tell you that those things are equivalent. But in real life, we know that they are not. Okay, so this is how more complex, sometimes subtle differences may make a huge difference in choice making, okay? There are many things involved in this kind of choice. We can call those frames, we can call those defaults, or even we also have price anchors. Let me just talk a little bit about these things, okay? Frames is like how you present an option. Então, quando você vai para um ponto de venda, ou quando você pensa numa pessoa para dar um presente e tal, você sempre vai tentar ver qual que é a historinha, como que eu posso colocar essa escolha. For example, if you are gonna give someone a gift and this person is young, let's say someone with 14 years old, you are giving a gift to this teenager. What is the acceptable or advisable gift that you could give someone like that or with that age? Well, the most respectable choice would be some book, for example, books. Se você dá um presente que está ligado à cultura, à educação, aquilo vai ser visto como sendo saudável, bem pensado. Sometimes the kid will not even like reading that book, but the frame is, I'm participating in your education, in your personal development, or something like that. So, the way we frame this gift, a maneira como a gente apresenta o presente, pode mais ou menos é, é, influir na nossa decisão de qual escolha, né, de qual presente comprar. When we talk about defaults, this expression you can see here, defaults, that means standard option. Defaults quer dizer escolha padrão. So just let me give you an example. I have a group of friends, and among us, every time it is someone's birthday, we give each other bottles of wine. So this is like the standard option. You don't have to think a whole lot. We all like wine, so that's the option. Sometimes we give people an imported bottle of wine, sometimes a Spanish wine, a French wine, an Italian wine, but it's always wine. That's the standard, okay? It turns out that many times we make choices which are standard just because they are there. We think, oh, if someone have established this pattern, who am I to change it? Okay? So our choices are profoundly affected by standards, by defaults, okay? We're going to talk later about price anchors, but what I'm trying to say here is that we have like a number of elements that will interfere in an individual choice. Então, aquilo que a gente pensa que é a escolha racional, na verdade, ela sofre influência de um monte de pequenos aspectos, que aparentemente são pouco importantes, mas que na vida real eles fazem uma grande diferença. Alright, so here comes these two guys, Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman, and they started collecting those elements, those aspects, and they say, okay, we're going to call that anomalies. Anomalias. Those are circumstances in which our prediction of what people would do, what rational people would do, well, they don't make it. We make predictions, and in real life, people do other stuff, okay? Então, os caras começaram a colecionar esse conjunto de circunstâncias, paradoxos, anomalias, em que as pessoas não estavam exatamente agindo conforme um modelo racional preveria ou indicaria, ou imaginaria que as pessoas agiriam, tá? Well, if you have a theory of rational behavior and you have a few exceptions, você tem uma regra e você tem algumas exceções, você tem uma teoria e tem alguns furos, it's okay. You still can say, oh, those are exceptions. Those are, like rare cases. So my theory is already good, is still good. Mas, se com o passar do tempo você vai colecionando um monte de furos, um monte de aspectos em que a sua teoria falha, chega uma hora que você vai ter que propor uma nova teoria. So that's what Tversky and Kahneman did. They collected a number of cases in which human behavior was different than what rational choice models predicted. And they said, okay, so we need a better theory. Here it is. Okay. Now, in order to convince people that their theory was better, well, that's a hard task, right? Para convencer as pessoas de uma teoria bem estabelecida, que a teoria deles não é boa, ou que precisava de uma teoria nova, você vai mexer com o ego, o interesse de muita gente. So, they had to be very, they have, they had to have very strong arguments, very good points, if they wanted to convince people, right? And that's what they did. They you collected very strong evidences in order to support their theory. And we're going to talk later about this. The theory is called prospect theory, ok? Seria teoria da perspectiva ou teoria do prospecto. Às vezes as pessoas traduzem de diferentes maneiras essa expressão, tá? In any case, Kahneman and Tversky, they were not the only guys on this, in this journey. If you go back and search for people who were already concerned about the difference between the rational model prediction and how people actually behave, well, you would have to talk about Herbert Simon. So you can see this guy here on the left-hand side. Simon was like almost a genius. He was a guy with a profound knowledge of many sciences, and basically he created the expression bounded rationality. So he decided to explain how and for which reasons our brains are not so advanced as sometimes we think they are, ok? Então esse cara foi quem começou a falar assim, olha, os nossos cérebros enfrentam algumas limitações. Eu vou mais ou menos aqui explicar quais são essas limitações e qual é o impacto para, por exemplo, para a administração de uma empresa. Alright, so that was the contribution of Herbert Simon. So Kahneman and Tversky, with other guys here like Dan Ariely, Colin Kammerer, and George Akerlof. So most of those guys were Nobel Prize winners, and they became famous for their contributions to this advancement of knowledge, okay? Some of those bestsellers, well, you can find them in Portuguese too, okay? O Empurrão para a Escolha Certa, Rápido e Devagar, A Economia da Identidade. So those books are sold out all over the world. They are very famous. And I guess you probably have heard about some of them, okay? Okay, so let me finish this recorded session with this example, okay? And then we're gonna we're gonna give you some more suggestions on how to proceed for the next classes. Okay, take a look at this. Suppose that I offer you these two choices, okay? The first two choices here. Which of the following would you prefer? Qual dos dois você preferiria? A certain win of 250 reais. Então, o que você prefere? Receber 250 reais agora, te entrego o dinheiro agora, or a 25% chance to win 1,000 and 75% chance to win nothing. Então, o que você prefere? Receber 250 reais agora garantido ou entrar num sorteio em que Você tem 1/4 de chances de receber 1.000 e tem 3/4 de chance de receber nada. Well, if you make those, if you offer those options to people, the great majority of people will choose the first one. Oh, come on, give me my money. I like certainty. I want my money now, in my pocket. A grande maioria das pessoas não vai querer correr risco, né? So we tend to have this risk aversion, essa certa aversão a risco. Well, that's natural and that is actually associated with rational choices, right? If we can, we must avoid risks, right? Se a gente puder, a gente tende a evitar riscos. Okay, nothing new here. Now, think about the second option. What do you prefer? To lose 750 reais right now or to go in this lottery? 75% chance to lose 1,000 and a 25% chance of losing nothing. Então, o segundo joguinho que eu proponho para você é assim, ó. O que você prefere? Eu te peguei aqui infringindo uma regra de trânsito, sua multa é de 750 reais. Mas, se você quiser, você pode entrar numa loteria em que você tem 75% de chance de perder 1.000, ou seja, de pagar uma multa de 1.000 reais, mas você tem 25% de chance de não pagar multa nenhuma. Você pode ganhar um perdão. Now, when we are talking about losses, it is very likely that people will take the lottery. Quando a gente já está falando assim sobre uma perda certa de 750 reais, ou uma loteria em que eu posso perder um pouco mais, mas que pelo menos eu tenho alguma chance de não perder nada, when we offer this second case, this second game to people, many people take the lottery. So what's going on here? When we're talking about gains, people are risk averse. When we talk about losses, people tend to be risk lovers. What's going on? I mean, it is the same person, right? We are not talking about different preferences. We are talking about the same person. Quer dizer, em algumas circunstâncias as pessoas ficam amantes do risco, em outras elas ficam avessas ao risco. From a rational perspective, that doesn't make sense. Em termos de uma escolha racional, consistente, quem escolheu não correr risco na primeira opção deveria escolher não correr risco na segunda opção. But that's not what happened. So, we are going to talk a little bit more about what actually happens in people's minds next time. I appreciate you all watching this video. It's good to be here. Please write down your questions, your doubts, and bring them to class next Tuesday, all right? Okay, I talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.